All right, hello. Oh. Gonna have to take us extra few seconds to get the link out there. Wasn't quite wrapped with my Discord. So probably take me another few seconds than normal. But that should be fine. This gives us more time to enjoy this intro music. Alright, got the link out there. Okay. Might be just me on this episode. Okay, and this time we'll only be talking about 12.3. P plus 4 times 5 says, I'm at work so I can't play audio right now, but I'll look at the art. Alright, there we go. As an audience participation question reminder, we have for 12.3, what's your favorite cute moments between the Undersiders and the Travelers? It doesn't have to be from, or it can be from any chapter. So yeah, that's what we'll talk about in that section, although no one has answered it, so maybe it will just be me talking about that? I don't know. As soon as this drawing is done, I'm gonna put up the full drawing, because the speed draw is upside down from, you know, the regular ways version. Whoops. So yeah, it's in the underground base in Ballistic's little home turf. We've got Kraus and the laptop with Noel, and then Ballistic. And you know, Ballistic's kind of a slob, so he's just got dishes going, you know? Okay. Well, anyway. So, we're only covering one chapter this time. It's just going to be 12.3. Themes for this. There's a little bit of team strife. There's like the problems between Trickster and Ballistic that they sort of deal with. Then there's the problems between Imp and Gru, not really like being able to get things along, but and then there's of course the friction between Noel and like everything, but yeah. Let's see here. Themes. There's sort of casual lying going on a lot. There's Taylor being like, yeah, if only we knew that secret power. She's keeping up the ruse along with Tattletale. And then you've got Tattletale keeping up the ruse with Kraus about like not knowing that or you know, just that she's working on Noel's problem more directly, etc., and that there's no problems with that, etc., etc. So, I guess moving on into the old chapter summary. So, the Undersiders are landing their boats and meeting up with the travelers, who are already on shore. Oh, hey, Greg. Cool. I was worried that there would be no people here. Aside from 2 plus 4 times 5, who is not listening to my voice. Cool. Well, I'm just starting in on the chapter, so yeah, they're landing their boats and meeting up with the travelers who are already on shore. Gru is upsetty spaghetti at how the meeting went and has been blowing off some steam by yelling out swears as he drives back. Tattletale tries to calm him down a bit and says this might have been the only thing that Coil could have done in this situation, which Gru half accepts, but only begrudgingly, as he's not in the secret loop about what Coil's power is. Skitter and Tattletale, whose new nickname together is Skittle, play defense for Coil. Bit like they team up to try and cool Gru down, I guess. And they reason that Coil can give them all the knowledge from the Alliance anyway, plus Coil can take a leadership position and run the whole board. Gru is placated enough for Skitter and Trickster to move the conversation along. Also, I thought about this more, and I kind of think that, it's fine that they came out of the meeting with no one being on their side, because then the better they do, in the upcoming fights and stuff, they'll just have even more rep. It's like, we weren't even part of the Alliance and we took down all those people, whatever it may be. Greg says, sounds like a juicy sponsorship opportunity for Skitter. If Uber and Leak can do it, why not the Undersiders? Exactly. We just need to get some Skittles payments going here. Or at least free Skittles to everyone in Skitter's territory. It's what the people demand, actually. Trickster shakes hands with the Undersiders and tells them he sent Genesis back in a new form to spy on the meeting. Tattletale tells us that Imp stayed behind when the rest of the group left, which alarms Gru. Now he's got yet one more thing to be flipping out about, on top of everything else. The topic of Skitter's bugs as spies comes up, and she tells them that she can feel what they feel, but she can't really see what they see or hear what they hear. Tattletale corrects that she has been able to hear through the swarm. It was on the night in Arc 4 when she had been given the pain medication in the back alley doctor's office. Skitter's all incredulous, but Gru and Tattletale just forgot, because of all the bombings and stuff. Skitter starts being all like, think of the possibilities, like some sort of mad tinker, which she is one. And Trickster asks why she doesn't do it then. She explains what we heard more of in the early arcs about how her brain and Bug Brain are incompatible. So the sensory part of your power, you stopped trying? Tattletale asked. Skitter is annoyed at this framing and starts explaining defensively that she was making no progress. The ever-kind friend Regent makes a clever barb that spurs his friend onward in her journey to mastering her powers. Skitter is tempted by the power. Good! Like all Palpatine. I was going to do a drop, but I did not get it ready. But even Bugpile over here questions the ethics of listening in on all her minions all the time. And she's like a pile of bugs or something. As Greg says, is it possible to learn this power? Yeah. So, Skitter... oh yeah, down here. It might be like your range boosts, tied to your mental state. Skitter shoots down this idea, but Tattletale says she can figure it out and push herself to use that part of her power and keep track of it, or when it's stronger and weaker. So she agrees, and she pushes herself to open up to Bugbrain. All descriptions of annoying high-pitched whines and bass throbs return. She talked about this at the beginning of the story, and now it's just her baseline is dealing with this. But you know, she'll get through it. It is Taylor after all. So Skitter will be annoyed right now, but that will put her in the right bug mindset to grow her powers. Trickster invites the group to Ballistics HQ, and they agree and begin to walk and talk. Gru starts them on the topic of the 9 again, asking who specifically they're recruiting. Regent gets some looks from the Traveler when he says that he was nominated, expanding that his sister became one of the 9 since the latest files on them, and it was more to screw him over. To fuck with him, as he keeps saying. Skitter says Arms Master is another, with Mannequin after him, which they learned from Miss Militia over on the lake meeting. The rooftop lake meeting, we'll call it. Trickster sheepishly mentions that the 6th member of the Travelers was Crawler's nomination, raising the question of not 1, but 2 unknown team members? He says they have 2 group members who don't see any combat, and moves the conversation along. Gru says as long as it's not pertinent, they can just continue and stay on topic. Trickster points out that Hookwolf was picked by Shatterbird. 2 + 4 × 5 says, okay, my coworker is on a 15-minute break, so I can join for the next 14 minutes. Perfect! Let's see here. After they point out that Burnscar picked someone in Faultline's crew, they tally up the remaining members to be Jack, the Siberian, and Bonesaw. Notably, Rachel is listening to this whole conversation and decides not to share that she was approached by the Siberian. It just didn't come up. Sundancer floats some ideas for Tattletale to shoot down. She thinks they've all picked their candidates and it's about to start. Tattletale does, I mean. They get to a parking garage that sounds very storm-destroyed from Leviathan, and looks so on the outside. They walk down a few levels of car path, and then they get to a collapsed ramp. It looks flooded down there, but after they climb down, there are like walls, which you can see in the drawing here, the interior of the walls, to keep the water and everything out. So this is just like a separate area of the large underground zone. And so yeah, they have this sort of secret lowest basement section that is not visible from the outside. I don't think there's any like doors or locks keeping you from getting here, but just generally I don't think people would go here. Pretty good camo. So inside the base, Ballistic takes off his mask. Skitter thinks he's good looking, but doesn't go overboard with it like she does for some characters. Trickster takes off his mask, and Skitter gives what Vic would like to describe as being part of the hate train. But the only thing she says that is directly bad is, unfortunate hook nose. The rest of that stuff could all be compliments if you took it the right way. She thought he was a sexy bird of prey because of his intense stare. The other Undersiders take off their masks and sit down. Sundancer is asking about the Slaughterhouse 9 being unbeatable, and she's got her mask off too. Skitter doesn't think even on a sliding scale, just attractive for Sundancer. Brian says they're not unbeatable, and some members are more vulnerable than others, but they know the odds they got from Dinah, and it's likely they'll get killed in a direct fight. To prepare for the strategy session, Trickster sets up a laptop. Meanwhile, Taylor finally takes off her mask, feeling the passive social pressure of the rest of the group. Oliver is brought on the comms and asked to patch in a moody Noel, before he returns with her on the line. Trickster quickly explains, while the laptop's muted, that Tattletale is supposed to be finding the fix to Noelle's problem, and she needs to lie and say she's working on it already, and not reveal if she notices any problems. You can't just go around setting off Noelle. You need to keep her calm. Trickster unmutes things right on time, so there's not a long pause after she arrives in the car. The call. Taylor thinks that Noelle looks very ill, as though she were in the early stages of addiction, and starts to worry that Coyle is drugging her too. Noelle is being included more at her own request. Trickster introduces the Undersiders one at a time, with only Tattletale eliciting a response. The others, she's just kind of bored and disinterested. I'd have to assume the moment that's being captured here of Noelle, because she looks almost smiling adjacent, is a little later when she is actually like, oh my god, I'm interested in the conversation for a second. Just a moment. Alright, so, I feel like I had something more to say about Noelle that I didn't actually write here. Oh yeah, I thought it was funny when she says hello. There's this particular way that Vic and a few other people we know say hello, like, hello? So I imagined Noelle saying that when she was sort of first on mic. Anyway, moving on. So, once they're sort of in conversation, Lisa jumps right into things and says that she's on the case. She's just got all these damn murderers to deal with right now. Luckily for our main crew, Noelle focuses on the idea that Tattletale can help her. So Lisa talks some big talk and makes some vague promises with no specifics involved. Noelle is convinced enough for Trickster, who gives a thumbs up, and then tells Noelle that they need her help with a plan, and she smiles for the first time, possibly just now on the picture. Trickster starts up a strained chess metaphor with Jack as the king, Siberian as the queen, Crawler as an unkillable rook, which is weird that they have to say like a special rook for Crawler, because the Siberian is an equally special, unkillable queen. So, there's that. Shatterbird and Burnscar are like bishops. Mannequin is like a knight. And Alex spills the beans on Cherish, a long-range attacker who can fight multiple opponents with unblockable attacks. The chess metaphor is pretty much forgotten as they begin to discuss the details of Cherish's power. They know the sensing range is the size of the city, but they have no idea what the offensive range of her power is. Taylor has the idea that her power might outrange Cherish's in offensive range, and Brian asks where, Brian sort of comes back to the chess metaphor, asking where Bonesaw fits into it all, and Trickster is like, she kind of changes the rules of the game. So when do we play Slaughterhouse 9 chess with full crazy rolls? That's a good question. I wanna know how we can play this. I think the problem is all the pieces start moving at the same time during the fight, and it's really hard to manage. Also 2 + 4 × 5 for the short time I have you. If you could write a... you're doing it right now. Literally, I was going to say audience participation thing. Anyway. So, great job. Anyway, so, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so Trickster's chess analogy, and she doesn't fit. She changes the game. She brings them back from the dead. She makes getting caught by the 9 a top-tier bad fate. I also feel like Bonesaw makes the shogi analogy work even better because both sides can take pieces off the board and then put them back into play for their own ends. So that stretches it further, I guess. Oh my god, the dog wants in. He's scratching mercilessly. She's gonna be disappointed. I don't have anything in here for her. Yes. So, they sort of talk through how they can't win a direct fight with the Nine, which Trickster attributes to Coil, not mentioning Dinah, which, Taylor finds a bit suspicious. But, Noelle mentions some, play that she wants to run that her team recognize. They know their opponents are cheating the scenario, so they need to focus on not fighting the way that they, like their enemies want them to. And all of this leads Trickster to asking what the Nine want. And I almost pulled out more for this, but the basic motivation is their wanting of the ninth member. And then, Lisa talks about the Nine partly doing this to keep up a reputation. They say she says they want to, like, hurt, scare, and kill people. And, it's true. Like, some of them, I think, want it for, like, weird, pragmatic reasons of, like, keeping things going. And some of them just to do their thing. And, like, obviously Crawler is trying to, like, get heroes with powers that can still hurt him to come hurt him. So, it's kind of a multifaceted thing. But, during all this, she's saying, like, they're well-known monsters. Everybody knows about them. And then, how they're, like, just the worst people. And then, some of this stuff seems to be bumming Noelle out, which Taylor suspects has to do with being scouted by the same people. Then she has the idea, they want to hunt. They're predators. Okay, how can we use that? And, so Noelle proposes that they change the game in some way to make the Nine the prey. She mentions that she thinks they can change this to be, shogi instead of chess. The three cool kids don't know what all these fucking nerds are talking about with their board games and shit. So Taylor has to explain that what Noelle was getting at is that in shogi, you can put enemy pieces that you take back onto the board on your side. Going through the list, the only people they think of who would be possible to get are the bishops. They don't get into it further because they're interrupted by Oliver informing them that Genesis is waking up. Brian gets up to go to Imp, who will need a ride back. And they say that they'll be back down to Ballistic's base to discuss more strategy as soon as they've got her. So, Trickster wants a few minutes to talk with Noelle alone, so Sundancer and Ballistic head up with the Undersiders. Skitter notices the adorable sight of Bitch holding Bastard as she climbed. Sundancer asks about the little guy, and Bitch tells her that, or tells them all really, that his name is Bastard, which Regent astutely notices that she must have named him. Gru says he was surprised that she brought him tonight. Skitter imagines that he had been waiting to bring it up for the same reasons that she had. Bitch lets them know that for the first year and a half, he'll be like a dog. Tattletale realizes the wolf thing, and then something much more important eclipses the moment. Tattletale's power senses them before the others can see that there are 4 members of the Slaughterhouse 9 walking into the entrance of the parking garage. The Siberian, Jack Slash, Bonesaw, and Cherish are all blocking the way out. Yeah. So that's the chapter summary. For some extra chapter thoughts, during the first read, it was really tantalizing information that Noelle had maybe been the team leader of the Travelers before. I think I found it exactly as compelling as I was supposed to. Um, and so yeah, I don't know. It just the travelers are super intriguing. They're like this side group. We just keep getting a little bit of them. Gru and Trickster are really in sync at that lake meeting, and then we get these juicy deets, the juicy deets, and I mean we obviously know from like Dinah's chapter that there's Noelle is like a murder machine who can totally murderize everybody. You know, as you do. Um, so I also wanted to shout out weaving in small moments like bitch resettling bastard when the Siberian is mentioned. It reminds the audience of like her thing with the Siberian and bastard, and it shows her reacting, even though it's a bit hard to interpret what she's thinking. Um, it's pretty good. And then I guess this chapter really solidifies like the team up between the travelers and the undersiders because they all show each other's faces, etc. And they even see like Noelle and Oliver on the computer, so it's like the full set. Um, yeah. And then arc stuff, how this chapter relates to the arc. This is yet more connective tissue. We haven't really it sets up that final beat. Like obviously it's getting all the pieces moving with like where do we go from here from the last meeting kind of being a flop, and then they actually like have a plan for what they're gonna do to a certain extent, and then they're immediately like confronted with a possible direct confrontation, the kind that they are specifically supposed to avoid. Um, so yeah, pretty good chapter overall. I like it. Really characterizes all the peeps well by just letting them have little casual speaking roles during the whole thing. Pretty well balanced. Um, Anyway, moving on to the characters. We got Lisa talking about Ampere. I pulled out. She's a bit of a rebel, but she's not stupid. Trust her to hold her own. So Lisa's got a lot more confidence in Aisha than Brian does, because Brian, he's a real warrior. You know that Brian. And speaking of Brian, Christ. Gru snapped his head from one side to the next, as if he could spot his sister that way. With a note of alarm in his voice, he asked, "Imp still there?" So he's going through his typical maneuvers, being overprotective, sort of building all his general frustrations. And this is gonna be a pattern for him. He's gonna be upset with Aisha being in the mix, even though she's very much like on the team, one of the people, and it will cause friction between them. So let's see how that plays out. Other than that, Brian is also just like I think he's like a pretty proud person. Like he's upset at the potential rep loss on I think like a more gut level than like Taylor and Tattletale, who want it in this moment, want it just like tactically. I will not say that Taylor does not want the rep just for the rep's sake at different moments in the story, because you can always say it's tactical, but I think there are different moments where it's pretty clear. It's just like, oh no, you need to feel like people are scared of you. But oh, back to job. 2 + 4 × 5. Bye for now. In those 15 minutes, you actually got to hear most of the episode because I so shortened. but yeah, Brian, we'll watch him. And Alec, we got a lot of good Alec quips. I pulled out the let me guess, Regent remarked to Bitch. He's been swearing since we left. Bitch nodded. Um she she and Alec actually get like a fair number of little moments. They don't seem he doesn't seem to annoy her as much as he used to, which is weird. But yes, I speed ran this stream. Um, it may be my fastest yet, my PB. Um, and then we got Kraus. He extended a hand for Gru to shake, then turned to Tattletale, me, Regent, and Bitch to do the same. Bitch didn't take his hand, turning away to focus on her dogs instead. Trickster took the snub in stride. If nothing else, I'm glad we get a chance to talk. Unless things get a lot worse from here, I'm hoping we'll all be working side by side for a while. Trickster offered each of them a cigarette, then offered one to me. I turned him down, as did the others. We keep getting reminded Trickster's a smoker. Apparently Vic was reading the wiki, and she read Krause's description, and it was basically like no sources cited, just shit talking Krause and how he sucks. And like I gotta read it because she is almost certainly over exaggerating, but it was so funny to hear her recount it. She's just like so defensive of him. Let's see here, characters. And we go to T for Trickster. Okay, so for appearance, we get Francis has light brown skin, long dark hair, and a hooked nose. He has an intense, piercing gaze. That seems fine. As Trickster wears a black costume. Oh, no. The part she was complaining about wasn't his appearance. It was the personality. Which I find this funny. And it is actually pretty bad. Francis is disliked even by his own teammates due to his annoying behavior. He allegedly does this intentionally to unite his team. And she was like, that is not the reason that they dislike Francis. I don't know. It was all so funny. And then the only things they really cite are at the end of the article to talk about how he's a smoker. Important factoid. Trickster be smoking? Anyway. Moving on to Noelle. I thought this is sort of a crossover moment between them. I could see Trickster tense. Was Noelle so high-strung or so desperate that she'd throw a tantrum over being asked to wait? And yes, her patience is being shown to be wearing incredibly thin. Noelle is not happy or healthy right now. It's really interesting that we learn that she might have been the leader of their group. Weird mystery character, gets lots of build up. She's hungry. Anyway, moving on from Noelle. Marissa, a rather attractive blonde girl with a long neck and delicate features. Her hair was expertly pinned up behind her head. So apparently, up to this point, it was an all-covering mask that covered up her hair and everything, despite the way it looks in the previous art of Sundancer. We'll call Vic's Sundancer from Arc 5 a reinterpretation. I guess Mars isn't in this picture, but And I will also probably refer to them as their civilian names a bunch, even before we learn them, but we'll learn them soon enough. Anyway, moving on to them powers, knowledge, and world building. When she is trying to listen for the bug mind, then she has to, focus on actually getting rid of the mental barriers, not just sort of letting them down. So I nodded and willed myself to tear down all the mental barriers and safeguards that walled my brain off from the sights and sounds the bugs wanted to send my way. It was every bit as grating and annoying as I recalled. This would take some getting used to. And I skipped over most of it in the chapter summary because a lot of it is kind of retreads of what we know, but like with the character flavor of being said by a lot of different like travelers and undersiders about the specific powers and like strengths and weaknesses of the nine. So we go over a lot of that in this chapter. And again, like the setup is woven really well into things as far as like knowing what an enemy does before we have to see them on the battlefield or whatever. Anyway. And I also like to see them like team planning like this. We sadly have skipped a lot of team planning sessions in some of these more hectic things. Like Arc 4, they don't really have a chance to do it. They're just like always on the run. Arc 5, we sort of skip the planning meetings and they just like barely talk about it while they're driving out to the like job. And, I always like to see them be like, how do we win? And like actually like think and talk about it. But that's kind of all I've got for that. So moving on to the audience participation. For 12.3, it was, what's your favorite cute moment between the travelers and undersiders? It can be from any chapter. So, we get from 2 plus 4 times 5. I like the shogi part from 12.3, where Smugbug plus all the travelers immediately get what Noelle is implying. And then we have the quote here. Shogi, Noelle suggested. Shogi, I got her meaning almost immediately, and I wasn't alone. Tattletale, the travelers, and I all looked at Regent. Regent, Bitch, and Gru, for their parts, were left looking bewildered. Maybe you should clarify, Gru suggested. This is especially funny because of Worm Arc 17. And then has a reference to what happens in that. Secrets! So Greg says, I like when Skitter gruesomely carves out Lung's eyes, offers to help Sundancer up with blood-covered hands, and then is miffed when Sundancer later doesn't think they're like BFFs forever. So cute. That's a pretty good one too. My favorite is in Arc 13, I think it's the beginning of 14 actually. In the beginning of Arc 14, when the travelers and the undersiders are cooking breakfast together. I like that. That's my favorite one. And it's what made me think of the question. So for chapter 12.4, the audience participation question is to think up a Slaughterhouse 9 what is it? Nomination request? That's not what it is. Test. Nominee test. Test for a nominee. Yes. Think up a Slaughterhouse 9. I had the idea for the question, but I hadn't typed it out. That's why you didn't hear me going, what do I want to do? What happens in the next chapter? Like I usually do. So yeah, let's copy and paste that into the chat so that we already have it up. Boop, 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 doo, doo, doo. There it is. Okay. So, there we are, and we're kind of at the end of the stream already. So, did I have anything else I want to say? Yeah, we're kind of going to do the next week as a single chapter as well, and even though we're still doing some stuff, it's kind of like a break week. Initially, we hadn't planned this, but we only had one art and one chapter outline ready, and we didn't really have anybody on the schedule, so we just pushed everything forward a week and gave ourselves a little breathing room. So, yeah, that's kind of why this happened. Let's get the links. So, oh, I should start doing the content warning at the beginning, shouldn't I? I really need to remember that. So the music used in this episode is Infestation by ScarlettXOX, who you can find at twitch.tv/scarlet_rogue. And then we've got our Discord server link in the channel description and the stream description. The author of the work being discussed can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow, and the full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. There is also the full fan-made audiobook at audioworm.rain-online.org. So, thank you guys who attended this time, and we will be back next time for 12.4. Bye! Starting up the outro music. Bye!